without saying, you know, you can climb to the top, you can be a hero, you can still do things that are noble, even if you're not, you know, protecting your community from Indians, you can protect them from criminals. But now the law has made that.
Oh, sorry, I thought I misheard that. I did not. Wow, just old-timey colonialization. Yeah, you know, back in the day, the man's men, the good Christian white family, they would be sitting there and you would protect your community from the savages outside, you know, the brutal savages who were coming to, again, perhaps have their way with your women folk. That's what the savages would do. They were savage, after all. So that's why you'd have to defend yourself from those horrifying Indians. But now, things have changed. They're better now. Yeah, we've learned. John Doyle versus Tim Pool versus Destiny. It's a lot of horrifying people in one room.
Curious, just to kick it off, if whoever wants to start, what's your thought on why men
Alchemist Narwhal, thank you so much for the Prime. It's a new sub, everyone. Be friendly.
and appear to be failing?
I assume we were going in order of who was introduced first, but all right, I'll be like the based alpha male and assert myself into the conversation early on, I suppose. I think it's probably because we just aren't taught how to be men. I mean, traditionally, men would be taught how to sort of grow into their masculinity by their fathers, grandfathers, uncles, but now we have a very, I think, androgynous and weak society because of things like you mentioned with testosterone going down because of different lifestyle factors, things they're putting in the food, things even in the water. There's like residual birth control, I think, like estrogen in the water. But also, I think our society,
yeah, some good feminization in there. Hell yeah.
society doesn't really incentivize positive channeling of those behaviors. You know, typically, if you are a man, you're going to want to like impose your will upon the world in some capacity, whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem, I would say. The sentence you just said out loud, if you're a man, you need to impose your will upon the world. Okay, let's not do that anymore. That sounds terrible. I think men have been doing that for a very long time with disastrous effects. So there's a problem we could isolate, right? Why don't we give men a break? Why don't men get you know, a couple of generations just to stay off the main storyline and just take a back seat for a little while and then just, you know, enjoy the show.
But if you can't do that, you're going to turn that inward and self-destruct, or you're going to try to distract yourself from that drive naturally with things like maybe drugs, video games, masturbation, pornography. And so I think that's kind of what we're seeing, just because men haven't really been taught by their fathers, who they're largely absent from their lives in the first place now, how to actually be a man. And
by the way, if you want people to have the family unit because you believe it is the foundational principle of which all American society derives its pure, unadulterated power from, you know, the eagle's blood, as it were, then why is it that you advocate for so many things typically that are not going to help parents have more time to spend with their kids? It's like, okay, well, really help if we had more social welfare programs, even, you know, let's say a democratic socialist structure, similar to how they have them in Scandinavia, where there's tons of paternal leave, tons of maternal leave, tons of time, you know, the places where children can have adequate care to take care of them, while parents can also have some free time. Like, let's do a work-life balance that's a little bit better. Nowadays, if you live in a major city, you have to worry about whether or not you're going to be able to even afford rent, so people have to work multiple jobs, and maybe your parents are actually on that Uber drive late at night instead of spending time with you. Yeah, that sucks. That's sad. I would rather those parents have more time to spend with kids, but man, is it ever cutthroat under this whole fucking system. So it's not just like, oh, we have a lot of families without dads, fatherless families. We need to sort out the fatherless families. That's the problem. We don't want to do anything to help them, by the way. No. They need to pick themselves up from their bootstraps. It's the only way. They need abject poverty to know the suffering that they experience. That way they'll want to change their lives. It hasn't worked yet, but it's bound to eventually.
now people don't even know what that means. Like, if you ask someone how to be a man, and even you look in like in the red pill community, they'll say, well, being a man is like, you know, having sex with lots of women and smoking cigars and drinking whiskey. And it's like this caricature. It's like a costume of like what masculinity actually is. And so no one really has a clear definition of it, because I don't think the definition is actually that interesting. Like, if you'd go back 100 years and be like, how do I be a man? It's like, I don't know, just like do it. It's supposed to be something that happens naturally.
Do it.
And I think that as our society has devolved, we've had so many impediments introduced that prevent people from doing that naturally. They think they have to like reinvent it into some really complex thing. You have to take these courses and read these books. That's not the case. You should really be able to just kind of develop into it, I think.
I wonder if it had something to do in the past with survival. In that men fought wars, put out fires, were hunting and things like that. And as we've advanced as a civilization in terms of technology, survivability has become less and less of an issue for us. We have too much food now. And so is there really going to be this manly man who's super ripped with a big beard chopping down trees? Or is it going to be some beer belly guy driving around in a heavy machinery who just presses a button and has it done for him? So, you know, we have this traditional view of masculinity with these heroic images of men that we don't need as much anymore.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I think that it's still possible, though, for men to be heroes, even in this like post-industrial society. But I think they're prevented from doing so. I mean, even like in school nowadays, boys can't stand up for themselves on the playground because they have like zero tolerance policies, which teach kids that like violence is absolutely never something that's permitted. So if some kid's picking on you and you fight back, you are now going to be suspended as well. You also have things like they bring in these social workers and counselors to try to tell boys that like if you have a problem, you have to talk about it, and there's probably something wrong with you. They even try to turn the students like against their parents in some cases. If kids are like, you know, my mom destroyed my Lego set because she was mad at me. A whole Lego set destroyed? That was something I remember happening to one of my buddies when I was in elementary school. So I think it's like taking children and basically teaching them to be a cog in that system that you described without saying, you know, you can climb to the top, you can be a hero, you can still.
I find it so weird, the people, and I say this as someone who, like, you know, was bullied in high school, but like the very people who, when you see them, you're like, you look like someone who was consistently bullied in high school, talking about how you need to be able to be like masculine and manly and fight back and blah, blah, blah. This is like the most stereotypical description of what a man should be in school that you can think of. Just like, son, you better not be a pussy. If you're a pussy, you're a failure. How do I not be a pussy, Dad? Well, you fight. You know, you show them who's boss. You show them who's not a pussy. And that's you, son. You get out there and you clock him. Okay, Dad, I'm not going to be a pussy.
Do things that are noble, even if you're not, you know, protecting your community from Indians, you can protect them from criminals. But now the law has made that largely impossible.
Sorry, wait, what? Wait, rip?
Them from criminals. But now the law has made that largely, you know, protecting your community from without saying, you know, you can climb to the top, you can be a hero, you can still do things that are noble, even if you're not, you know, protecting your community from Indians, you can protect them from criminals. But now the law has made that.
Oh, sorry, I thought I misheard that. I did not. Wow, just old-timey fucking colonialization. Yeah, you know, back in the day, the man's men, the good Christian white family, they would be sitting there and you would protect your community from the savages outside, you know, the brutal savages who were coming to, again, perhaps have their way with your women folk. It's what the savages would do. They were savage, after all. So that's why you'd have to defend yourself from those horrifying Indians. But now things have changed. They're better now. Yeah, we've learned.
Largely impossible in many cases as well, I think.
Well, most of the institutions that young men interact with are run.
Sorry, I didn't know that Lauren Chen was here, but it makes sense. Great. Here we go. Any pushback at all from anyone on any of this? We're just gonna sit back and be like, well, you know, the Christian fascist does say some things.
By women. If we look at the education system, it is a more feminine view, and the way that little girls learn and little boys learn, it's not the same, and it's not that one's better than the other. But I feel like that, in addition to the fact that social workers, for example, overwhelmingly females, psychologists, psychiatrists, overwhelmingly females. There are so many women who I think have the best intention when it comes to shaping men's lives, but I think they're not realizing that men and women are different. So that masculine leadership that you were talking about, that's largely missing, and it's been replaced with either nothing or maybe too much of a feminizing influence.
What do you think?
I don't think men and women are that different. I do agree with one thing that was said, though. I think one of the big issues you run into is there's literally no good advice out there for how to, I guess, help men, because it seems like on the left, they just don't want to talk to men at all. They're just exclusively talking to women or maybe minority men. And then for people on the right, it's this very strange caricature of masculinity.
Oh, the people laughing, if you just joined, by the way, I'm not doing this as like, this is not a burn. I'm not like, hey, by the way, he's the exact same as Tim Pool. Listen to Destiny do it. No, I'm just like, he's banned, so I'm covering his face with the beanie. It's what we use to cover the face of the banned streamers.
It's funny because you pointed out like that the red pill talks about a caricature of masculinity, but I feel like sometimes conservatives talk about caricatures of masculinity too. I feel like when we talk about masculinity, everybody wants to talk about like the really sexy, like fighting the kid at lunch that broke your Legos or fighting with your parents or whatever. The reality is, and I say the same shit to red pillers who say, well, it's important for you to be masculine because somebody breaks into my house, I need to get my assault rifle and tell my woman to hide my, like, life, 99% of life is not these moments. Like how successful you are in life really comes down to like, can you maintain a sleep schedule? Can you have a decent diet? Do you have enough discipline to go to work, show up to your job? can you graduate school? Like, these are, not only are these like the most important, they're oftentimes the hardest ones. It's a lot harder to maintain a 4.0 GPA, get a scholarship, go to school, than it is to stand up to a bully one time on the playground. But it seems like those are the sexy like moments that everybody wants to obsess over. And then in the meantime, when you look at like the woman's side of things, women have been taught to have more control over reproductive health. They're taught to go to school and succeed in ways that we never thought they could before. They're taught to enter the job market and get jobs and make money in ways we never thought they could before. Women have been doing a good job at kind of like leveling up all these different aspects of their lives. Nobody wants to talk to the men on the left, and the people that are talking to the men from the right are like, well, you guys just need to be even more masculine, even though I don't see any future where just being even more masculine is equipping you to succeed in a world where your outcomes are largely determined by like how successful you could be at a white collar office job, or how successful you could be sitting down, 8 hours a day in a school setting, like in college.
I suppose that's true. I don't know if, while it does seem sort of silly when you lay it out that way to focus on, these heroic standards as opposed to what is more practically applicable, it is true, though, that like even when men do go down those paths and they do them successfully, they don't feel fulfilled. They don't feel happy. They feel very, inundated and restless. And I think that's partially why the male suicide rate is like unprecedentedly high, because yes, they are checking these boxes and they're living successfully as determined by how society might want that to be defined, but they still do not feel like they're living as men. I mean, even, for example, if there were a guy who were making good money at a job, white collar, and he steps outside his office to go get into his Mercedes and he gets like robbed by somebody who doesn't have a gun, they just like beat the shit out of him. Wait, can I swear? I don't remember the rules here.
I don't know if we have any. I don't know.
He's going to feel like emasculated. You're going to feel bad about yourself because you were unable to defend yourself. And especially if his girlfriend or if his wife sees that, I don't care how much feminist literature she has read. If your woman ever sees you get beat up by another guy, she's never going to look at you the same way. I don't care how understanding she says that she is. Oh, he was bigger than you, whatever. She will never look at you the same way again, because whether or not we like it, they have been wired biologically to seek out men.
Oh no. Because of my programming, you are now cocked in my eyes permanently. Oh no, I can never be aroused by you again. You have been defeated in fisticuffs. I also like the whole might makes right version of the world in which, like, hey, by the way, a man should be strong and be able to defend himself at all times. And I wouldn't give people that advice. Like, I'd give you a realistic expectation that there are people you will be stronger than, that you will be able to repel, and there are people who are going to be stronger and better fighters of you who will be able to beat the living fucking shit out of you. And most likely, if you were standing up for yourself, as I have multiple times, you will get beat the fuck up. That's just the reality of some of the things. That's not that you should not try and defend yourself, and that's not that you should not try to defend others. If people are unjustly trying to hurt them, please be the person who steps in the way and try to help them out. Of course, these are great qualities for everyone. For these aren't gendered qualities, right? At the end of the day, and no, there's not a universal inheritable trait within every single woman that if they see someone lose a fight, suddenly they're going like, I'm sorry, but if you got beat the fuck up trying to defend someone for the right reasons, that's whether or not you win that fight is still going to be someone that people look at and like are like, holy shit, that's a good person. Like that, he didn't win the fight, but he stood in front of that old grandmother and stopped her from getting beat up. Or you think they're going to be like, oh God, no, I'm sorry. It's like a desert down there. I'm never getting wet again. I saw what happened there. How dare you lose that fight? You have to win all fights at all times. There's always going to be someone stronger than you. No matter what, no matter how strong you think you are. Like if your whole philosophy is might makes right, someone's going to be strong. There's only one person who's the strongest, best fighter in the world. Just one. Every other person is less strong and a worse fighter than that person. And I'm sorry, Highlander rules, there is only one. So if your entire worth and self-worth is going to be like, oh, you have to win all fights at all times. No, once again, like, holy fuck, are you kidding me? Yeah, maybe I'm wrong to speak on this as a pansexual, but like if someone was defending someone else, like that's what is noble and beautiful. It doesn't matter if they were more physically strong than them. It's that they were standing up for the right thing at the right time, and they were willing to get hurt in the process of standing up for their beliefs, so someone else would not get beat the fuck up. Yes, that's a beautiful, noble thing. No one's going to see that happen and be like, oh God, no, you were a man once.
Even if now they don't necessarily need the financial stability that maybe they would have required, 100 years ago, they still have that instinct to pursue that. And so I think that those moments too, I mean, how many guys too are now living in the glory day, or living in like this very comfortable lifestyle, who still reminisce back to when they were like the captain of the football team, or back, in their glory days, or even like post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, properly understood, we learned this in Vietnam. It's not like guys are so traumatized by war. It's that they go and they experience that brotherhood and that glory, and they come back and they're like in a body. rocks. I mean, the hurt.
What? Are you sorry? You don't think PTSD is real? You think it's just like, oh no, but we were all just valiant soldiers once. Yes, and then I came back home and they were calling me a baby killer. Yes, that gave me shell shock. That gave me PTSD. It was that truly hurt me deep down in my core. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, people who experience enormous amounts of shock and fucking terror and horror and atrocities on continuous basis for fucking prolonged periods of time, where the only escape is fucking hardcore drug use. Yes, the drug use that was going down during the Vietnam War was unprecedented among soldiers, because holy fuck, there's a lot of access to drugs and a lot of horrifying time going down. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's real. What are you talking about? It's not like once we were heroes, you know, a brotherhood of men. That's truly where I felt, you know, a camaraderie as we were invading a whole bunch of small villages and basically, you know, raping women, throwing children to the fucking forest, if that, and you know, just decimating entire fucking communities, dropping bombs on them, Agent Orange, fucking burning the jungle to fucking ash. None of that had any effect whatsoever. That was me just being, it was a brotherhood of men. Men being men, right?
Locker actually explored this very well. You read the interviews from like after Vietnam, these soldiers are coming back. It's not just that they're traumatized, it's that life after war is boring. So I think there is something in the male brain that's wired to pursue that.
Okay, so, yeah, a few things. So one, that PTSD is absolutely not. I was with my brothers and then I came back. That I don't think that is a.
Thank fuck. I was like, you're gonna bring a liberal, at least push back. Yeah, someone say something. Yeah, this is nonsense. PTSDs. And then, no, this has been well studied. Apparently, in Vietnam, people would go off into battle and then they would return and they no longer had the band of brothers. You know, they would have to watch all those Spielberg TV shows on HBO to truly, you know, relive their glory. What the fuck are you talking about? No, the people fucking saw bodies explode before their eyes, saw children's organs on the ground. I'm guessing that had a bigger effect than the very idea of noble brotherhood.
Driving factor PTSD. I think a driving factor PTSD is the human central nervous system being stressed beyond whatever a human is meant to deal with in life and death situations for sometimes extended periods of time, sometimes with other physiological things lacking too, like sleep, diet, whatever. But regardless of that, again, we hit on there's another red pill talking point. Like, what is a woman looking for in a man? Protection. Like, where do you live? Is this like in Pakistan, or are we like in some civil war place? Like, we live in the United States of America. I don't think protection is the thing that, like, most people probably want a guy that earns a decent paycheck.
But is that not financial protection?
Yeah, but that's not the protection that he was talking about, right? If you want to broaden protection to be so overly broad and meaningless that it includes things like making money, you can do that. But when people say protection, I mean, he was talking about, like, if your wife sees you get beaten up, blah, blah, blah. Like, true. If we take the totality of divorces and relationships ending in the United States right now, is like, saw my husband get beat up. Is that even going to make the top 50? I'm guessing it's probably nowhere near on that list.
It's a similar impulse in the brain, though, because I think women are initiating something between like 2/3 and 80% of divorces, and largely they just cite that they feel unfulfilled. I think that can manifest in a variety of ways, but
These are all fucking red pill talking points. He's just got like the red pill playbook. Like, okay, so women are attracted to violence. Women are attracted to those who can protect them. If you lose a single fight in your entire life, a woman will divorce you instantaneously. You've been emasculated and cucked for all time. She'll never be able to get sexually aroused by you. It'll be a desert for the rest of your days. Basically, Ben Shapiro's entire living existence. You're talking straight dap. And that's just basically the life that you've chosen because you got beat up. You shouldn't have gotten beat up. Every man should basically win every fight ever. Otherwise, they're like, do you live in perpetual fear? Like, do you walk down the street and when someone crosses you, are like, oh God, yeah, okay, oh, all right, yeah, it's almost lost a fight. You know what happens then? Yes, no woman will ever want me should I have lost the fight, but truly, I was ready. I was standing my guard. I'm like, holy fuck, what is this weird ass existence? It sounds very frightening and tiresome, to be completely honest.
But I think it's like they're looking at their husbands.
By the way, you're a YouTuber, motherfucker. You're a fucking YouTuber. Don't talk big game about this shit. All these people who posture like, holy fuck, you're a YouTuber. You're a goddamn YouTuber. Like, have some humility. You're a YouTuber. I'm fucking, you gotta win every fight, bro. You lose one fight, then women will never want to fuck you. You know what I'm saying? It's just reality, bro. It's programmed into them. Dog, it's how their minds work.
As less attractive for whatever reason.
Well,
you can even see studies too. Women that earn more than their husbands in a long enough timeline are more likely to divorce them because they don't have.
If this was true, and this is going to be a giant if, right? I don't want to grant this motherfucker anything because he's just spouting nonsense, red pill bullshit. Go check out, any number of anti-red pill channels that debunk a lot of this stuff. Mooncat is one of them, FD Signifier, for example. But either way, even if that was true, even if it's like, hey, it turns out that women who earn more than their male counterparts in some ways feel as if, it adds trouble to their relationship. Is the problem then that the men are emasculated by the act of the monies? Or is it perhaps the economic system we've set up and the expectations placed on genders, yes, gendered expectations, that suddenly do not fit into a paradigm that we've been programmed with our entire lives? Where it's like, yes, you're a man. Okay, well then you have to conquer, okay? Under capitalism, you got to earn, and that's basically your worth as a man. Be a protector, a physical protector, and then be an earner, so she can be protected with the monies as well. Because again, it's maybe not going to be as animalistic as I'm making it out to be, but either way, that's how we go forth. And that's if that data is even true.
Have that traditional perceived ability to,
yeah, like why would men be insecure about that? Why would it make a man insecure to suddenly not have as much earning potential under a system that continuously fucking punishes them, that makes it harder and harder and harder and fucking hard as fuck to like make it in this world? And that gets increasingly more difficult as we go on. Like the lies that boomers got to have, where it's like, oh yes, if you work hard, play by the rules, by the time you're in your 30s, you'll be able to afford a home, start a family. Fuck, 30s, they were doing it in their fucking 20s. Now it's like, hey, if you work hard and play by the rules, maybe you'll get to work 2 app economy jobs to be able to not get evicted and live in a car and be one of the many, yes, working poor that make up the fucking demographics right now. And it's like, it's wild that there's so much working poor. And that just gets harder and harder and harder. And hey, do you want to own a house? I do. That's how you get money over in capitalism, right? It is how you accrue wealth, and it is how you pass wealth on to future generations. So if you want to be a benefit to your children, yeah, you got to do this thing. You want to buy a home? Well, then you need to have a lot of money stored away, like $100,000. That's how you're going to get the bank loan. Yeah. So you need a down payment. That's 10 to 20% of what the market value is going to be. Oh, I don't have that. You don't have $100,000 just tucked away for like safekeepings? No, no one does. Really. Well, rich people do. Rich and hand-me-downs, right? People who have the benefit of inheriting that kind of wealth will get that wealth. But like average people, no, it is very hard. You're right. Very hard. Especially when the majority of people, over half right now, especially in British Columbia, are living paycheck to paycheck. Like they cannot afford a more than $200 to $300 emergency. That's the reality of the world. That's the working world right now. So yeah, you might not be able to afford that home. You might not have that value. You might not be a man. You're not a man. No, you're a failure. You've been emasculated in every way.
She mentioned protect financially, but I agree with
wait,
what
wait,
you're
real
saying.
quick, hold on. Neither of those two things are completely true. Number one, the divorce rate gets cited a lot. There's a reason why women overwhelmingly initiate divorce versus men. That's because oftentimes women have more they need to secure by doing so. If a man and a wife get together and things, petter out, whatever, things don't work out, especially if the woman is a child, that woman has to file for divorce if she wants to qualify for benefits, if she wants to get any kind of child support, if she
I hate to say it, but the beanie's right here.
wants to get any kind of welfare. Otherwise, her husband's income is constantly going to be taken into account when she's trying to apply for any assistance or need. So women are oftentimes highly incentivized to get divorced because a man can be like married and not give a fuck forever. Socially, there's probably less stigma, like, oh, I'm separated from my wife, she's whatever, versus a woman being like, well, I'm still married, but I don't see my husband. So socially, there's a lot of stigma behind who would cause a divorce. And then for financial benefits, a woman with a child whose husband is no longer in the picture and not helping, she absolutely needs to file for that divorce in order to qualify for anything she might need to maintain a household. Number one. Number two, after the divorce thing, you brought up what was the second thing?
Oh shoot, I don't even remember.
That's not very manly, John.
But the number one thing was,
Damn, you've been
Well, so
cut.
I just quick Google
by
search,
facts.
singular source, Forbes advisor says that lack of commitment is the primary reason for divorce. 75% of individuals cited lack of commitment. 60% cited infidelity. So it seems like infidelity is the real reason for divorce, which kind of sounds like if either individual in the relationship is cheating on each other, they've already broken their relationship.
I mean, this is something I'll push back at the 80% of women filing for divorce. I think there's a difference between a woman filing for divorce and a woman being responsible for the divorce. If it's a case of infidelity specifically, a man can cheat and a woman can file for divorce because of that. But can you really blame the woman for the marriage failing in that case?
I don't think so, but I think lack of commitment here is defined separately from infidelity. Lack of commitment could be like, he's not bringing to the table what I thought he was, something like that. These sort of like vague reasons that are hard to define. Infidelity, I would agree with, but I mean, it does say like 75% would be lack of commitment.
I want to ask that question. What causes infidelity? Could it be sexual, desires that a man has or a woman has they're not being fulfilled with, or could it be that something in their relationship already broke, where an attraction has waned for a variety of reasons,
think
which
there's-
resulted in them seeking.
There's one
Probably
answer.
a variety of reasons
answer?
of why.
It's monogamy. See, if everybody had open relationships, there'd be no more infidelity. Boom. Next topic.
That's just like saying if we make all crime legal, there'll be no more crime.
Yeah, okay, have you seen The Purge? Okay. Their world is better off for it, according to the lore, so.
According to the lore, I don't even know the lore of the Purge. That conversation needs to be purged from my mind, though. That was painful to sit through. I like people like John Doyle, all these self-proclaimed Christian fascists. All they do is just, again, like Destiny was right to point that out. They repeat the red pill talking points. It's always the same shit. Well, according to this one-sided study, according to that, women really desire strong protectors. Women really desire men who never lose a fight. Women really desire blah blah blah. And again, it's coming out of the mouths of fucking YouTubers posturing that like women just want these massive Goliath beasts all just running into each other, fucking Naruto style at all times, and then finding out, well, yes, the most alpha amongst them will be he who rises to the top after they've all smashed into each other a couple times, and then whatever's left, that's your alpha male right there. That's the true protector. You got to get that alpha. Like, what the fuck are you all talking about? This stuff has been regurgitated since I was a kid. None of it's true. Like, you grow up and you learn. No, this is not how the world operates. Women are not looking for men to fucking be these aggressive animals always fighting each other in all states at all times. It's just like absolute nonsense. Misandry. If I am to be so bold, to be honest, if you're consistently going to say that this is the way men need to be in order to achieve the ultimate form, no, that's garbage. Men do not need to be these fucking Highlander-style Goliaths, all, again, smashing into each other to achieve the most powerful one, you know? Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. The world operates off clickbait now. Unfortunately, that's why this shit exits. Also true. It does. It does.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
Thank you kindly to our Lord and Saviors Peyton L. Just and Xander Corvus. Without you, we are nothing. And now, a shout out to our Knights of the Square Table. Amazing Flesh, Anna Loves Riley, Adrian McCarthy, DM Rivera, Doug Cady, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Izzy Solidarity, Lamidia Panza, Matthew Scarborough, Multimondi, Metal, Omni, Peanut Butter Blonde, Political Papi, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Kubi, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian Dimmel, Thomas, Trevbot EXE, Lucidry, Words Greenwood, Cheryl Alvarez, Tony Perkins, Thomas, O'Pecker, Travis McClinton, and Victoria Bell. Thank you so much. And a huge shout out to all the other people who make this entire show possible. Without you, it would not exist. If you can support us, please go to patreon.com/theserfs, and even $1 can help unlock all of the little goodies and help make this show entirely possible.